So I was going to press on the idea of how the neo-biology revolution's upon us, and it's already here brewing in Pakistan. But I've decided to share some anecdotes as well from my personal journey. So here we go. Slightly uncomfortable for an academic, but let's go for it. So again, today's a very special day for me. It's the 11th of September. 11 years ago, I booked this ticket. It was my first one-way ticket on the Oxford bus. It was an adult ticket, so I was no longer a student. I had graduated. And this was one way from Oxford to Heathrow, where I was boarding my flight to Peshawar. My passion for biology goes way back. I honestly don't know where it starts, whether it was that movie on a viral outbreak, or whether it was the shops, the science equipment shops and the medical supplies shops lining our daily commute to school in Riyadh. But I do have clear memories of my first encounter with my first microscope. So I approached my dad one fine morning. I was 10, and I told him, "Dad, I want to buy a microscope." And he was like, "Isko kya ho gaya?" And I pulled off all my ED. I didn't know matched funding was a thing back then, but I asked him to fill in the other half and take me to one of those shops so I can get my microscope. In a parallel world, it was also the age of home computers. So computers were making it to people's homes. And in Riyadh, we had those first machines coming in. My earliest one was a 286 Dad bought me. One thing I really envied back then was this side of the game, the engineers who could design stuff, build stuff, and solve problems. As a passionate biologist, on the other hand, I was stuck with nature only. I was a reductionist. I could only open things up and discover new uncharted territories at every level of nature, but I couldn't make anything. That was the envy there. Fast forward 2010, I'd finished my master's, I signed up for a DPhil, I was doing my earliest literature reviews. Biology was going through a phase where they were fed up of all the parts, and they were trying to put things together. Computer science at the back, compute was enabling all of this, and biologists could dare to think about something called systems biology. कि भाई अभी हमें सारे pieces इकट्ठे करने, we want to look at things holistically. We also had a open source movement with an open language, talking about how do you express these genetic surveys, how do you scribble them down. Unknowingly, I had bumped into the world of synthetic biology, and it was the latest transformation in biology when it was becoming a field of engineering from a field of science. The arrow had flipped. Another looming question back then in my mind was, working those long hours in the day, pipetting it out, writing code, was what's the game plan? And we all face these questions. What's the next stop? Is it going to be Boston, the East Coast somewhere, a coveted lab? Am I going to just ace this DPhil, go land a postdoc, maybe spin out a lab later on, get lots of grants, maybe put my name to a breakthrough somewhere? Or I was thinking to myself, is it about going back home and making a difference on the ground? It's going to take a lot of work in terms of institution building, putting things in place before I'm able to pipette my favorite protein. And I began to broaden my toolkit before I land in Pakistan. So I'm really grateful to have landed a stint at the Said Business School where I read strategy. I also attempted to mobilize an iGEM team from Oxford. iGEM was a spin-out competition from MIT where they were using synthetic biology to engineer some bugs. And I thought Oxford should have a team. I was writing my thesis on one hand, writing pleading emails to all these PIs, begging for space and resources, but it didn't work out. And then just before flying back, I didn't have enough funds to go to this conference, the coveted SB X.0 conference of the community. But I managed to land a volunteer position as an usher. In return, I got all the content on video at the end. And that's what opened up new ideas for me. So why all this? Why do I think Pakistan needs synthetic biology? A country like Pakistan needs synthetic biology. Well, we all know that biology is molecular. We know about the first cell. And we know about the DNA, that we have sequences available. Biology is pretty much digital these days. It's data-driven. We also know we can copy and paste those sequences, genetic engineering. That's why we have insulin. But what we are not familiar with are three trends which are tectonic shifts, in my view, in biology. Number one is DNA sequencing, and you see the miniaturization the way we saw with mobile phones or laptops or computers, right? But what we don't see is the speed of it. This is GenBank data growing at exponential speed. It was 1.5 trillion unique bases in last year in Feb. I just checked a couple of weeks ago, it was 3.6 trillion. So it's doubling at a rapid pace. Another piece of data here is Moore's law. This is what Gordon Moore predicted. Transistors are going to double up in speeds every 18 months. That's why computers are developing at such a rapid pace, and we have all these new phones every year. But if you plot DNA sequencing right next to it, it's steeper than Moore's law. So the costs are going 13 times Moore's law. Makes you imagine what sort of innovation and product space to expect in the near future. The same is happening in DNA synthesis. We're not just able to read DNA. We can print DNA of our own choice, which is what we want in a wet lab, right? And the same stuff is happening with cost over here. So the first biotech project, commercial biotech project around golden rice with vitamin A, it was about $10 million. You could repeat the same experiment for a bunch of a few $1,000s today. So it's a huge drop in costs which we need to be wary about. And the final shift which turned biology into engineering was adopting engineering principles from engineering. This is the E. coli chromosome under a microscope. And scientists went after every single gene, every single coding sequence in that chromosome. And we wanted to turn into parts, just like electric components in a circuit. Or for the sake of an example, Lego bricks. Can we tidy them up? Can we standardize them so they snap onto each other with ease and at scale, and they become interchangeable? Can we characterize each part so we know what it stands for and what it does in the living cell? And now we have libraries of tens of thousands of well-characterized parts, standardized under different standards, ready to be deployed in the lab. So the design, build, and test cycle is here in biology. It's similar to the way you code in computer science, and you get a piece of software. In engineering, you draw circuits and you go into fab. You get your chips. In biology, you can design your own genetic circuits, and you can print out DNA in the lab. Lastly, scale. So the second piece to all of this is biomanufacturing. So imagine if you design a bug, a bacteria or a yeast, to do whatever you like based on what's out there in nature, or maybe refactoring in what's not out there in nature. The next step is to brew that bug, give it some biomass feedback, and make more valuable compounds. We have lots of examples out there already in the market, from gene drives. Squalene is my favorite example. The cosmetic industry used to kill sharks to get squalene. Now we can brew that in yeast. We can brew spider silk, which Adidas is using, in yeast, and so on. So how do you convert biomass into something valuable? It's simple, right? And that's what making people question whether biomass is the new oil, which Pakistan is very rich in, for that matter. But the problem is we take ganna, sugarcane, and we just press some sugar out of it. Why can't we use designer bugs to brew more important compounds? So sugar's at the bottom of the table here. There are orders of magnitude more expensive compounds that could be brewed from the same feedstock. A top management consultancy firm estimates it's a $30 trillion market. And now the question is, how much share are we going to have in the market? And what are we going to produce? They've also mapped out a 5, 10, and 15-year plan projection on how product spaces are going to look like and what are going to get hit first using this technology. So I moved back from Oxford. I set up a lab with lots of adventure in between. This was 2015. I got a text message from Madam Secretary. Faisal, it's in. And I couldn't believe my eyes, what I saw. This was budget time within the government. KP government was hungry for ideas. I had sneaked in a roadmap for synthetic biology in KP, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And somehow it got sailed through. It was in the cabinet meeting, and Madam Secretary says it's in. It wasn't enough fund for like an industrial scale project, which is fine, but it was enough funds for an iGEM team. And we thought that would be a nice proof of concept. We could rally people and students around it. We can bring some confidence into the system, both on the funding side and the student side, and we could get some valuable critique for our scientific work in synthetic biology. That's exactly what happened. We assembled a star team from all 4 provinces. We called it iGEM Peshawar. We designed our own circuits. We got them fabricated, imagined, designed in Peshawar, manufactured in California. We met all the deadlines. Half the team flew off to Boston, rubbing shoulders with people like George Church, father of synthetic biology. By the way, George's graduate advisor was Gilbert, and Gilbert's doctoral advisor was Salam. So there was some sign there for students from Pakistan. So the team won a bronze medal. The following year, we assembled another team. It won a silver. MIT and Harvard were bronze that year. Gets to tell you about the quality of work put in by everyone over the summer. And the journey continues. We're an interdisciplinary research lab based in Peshawar now. We're 11 years old. And we're working on all sorts of tangents. We're landing the country's first precision medicine pilot, has a multi-omic stack for an oral cancer cohort. We're working on different directions from space biology to bioart, microfluidics, even the bioeconomy. And we're blessed with bright people around us, old and young. Co-PIs at the top, some very progressive people, and young high school interns every year who bring a lot of energy to the lab. We are also very proud of our culture. It's an open, fun, permissionless environment. That's exactly what you need for science. We espouse high levels of integrity, rigor, and the pursuit of excellence. And we're very proud of the alumni, 150 alumni so far from the lab in all corners of Pakistan and the world, from the kings and imperials of the world to the UC Davises, and many holders of esteemed scholarships. So, are homegrown moonshots possible? Absolutely. iGEMers have something to say here, and all the subsequent work. And do we even have a choice? The next ChatGPT moment is expected from biology. That's what experts agree on. It has an economic imperative, a job, a revenue, an export imperative. And for the love of science, we need to participate in the global scientific enterprise and contribute with all the ideas that we have and our kids have. Was coming back worthwhile? Absolutely. The thrill, the satisfaction that I draw from every day's work in the lab is unmatched. The energy these kids bring to the lab, these young students and staff, I call them kids, and they don't even know, the funny thing is they don't even know they're probably the founding fathers of a new golden age of science in the region, which is pretty satisfying. Was it easy? I never said so. You have to take risks. You have to carve out your own way. It's easier to go down well-trodden paths, but that's not original. I think your own path is as original as it can get. You also have to stick to your plans perhaps longer than it's comfortable to see the results. That's another lesson we draw. And then you have to ask those difficult questions and make those tough decisions whenever you're faced along your journey. And what do we leave behind? Well, I know we reminisced a lot today, but this is just the start. I'm truly excited of what the future holds. I'm really keen on how we can come together and accelerate the neo-bio revolution here in the country. Leapfrog our economy, catapult us into the future. And all of this has to be done on the ground, by the way. Lastly, I really look forward to what the future holds, and I really can't wait of what can be possible together. Thank you.